It's been one of those incredible moments in time where you get the opportunity to take a look back instead of always looking forward at some of what you've done and what your business has done and what your family have done over a long period of time. So it's one of those amazing little opportunities to sort of take a step back, take a breath and remember some of the great moments that we've had as a business over the past 30+ years. And as well, when you go through that process, what's quite amazing about it is there's so much actually you forgot that you did and that the company did and that my father did and so many amazing employees here did over that time. So there's a bit of nostalgia and a bit of appreciation for all the hard work and effort that has gone into making our business what it is today. Remembering that in the way that we have done going through this process has been quite special. I think when you are in any business and you treat people the right way and the way they want to be treated, and when you combine that with having a business that has a vision and an objective and a goal, and people feel like they're part of a team that contribute effectively to that ambition, I think that gives people a lot of drive and determination to be a part of something. And I think that's one thing that we've had all the way through from the inception of HSV back in the sort of over 30 years ago. I think we've always been doing very, very exciting products and doing pretty cool stuff that if you're into cars, there's not many other places in Australia you want to be over that period of time than HSV and now Walkinshaw. So I think it naturally attracts a sort of person that's excited about this kind of industry that we're in, and we're playing at the forefront of it. We're playing at the peak end of performance and design and engineering and manufacturing. And if that's what gets you off, I think there's nowhere else really in Australia to be other than HSV or now Walkinshaw. But I also think for the people that aren't necessarily just pure petrol heads, and there are a lot of those people in our business, that's when having a business which is focused on how you take care of your people, the team that you create, the environment that they work in, how they feel appreciated as people, all of those things contribute to an environment whereby there's a lot of longevity in a lot of people's roles, and more often than not, are saying goodbye to people because they're retiring as opposed to people saying goodbye to people because they're leaving. Why were they so besotted with HSV vehicles? Because they're pretty cool. From the first ever HSV that we did right until the W1. What a special collection of cars that were the absolute best cars that you could buy in Australia, that were built in Australia over the entire history of automotive manufacturing in Australia. I think if you're a rev head and you like Australian built cars, there was nowhere else to go other than HSV really. We were the best of what we did, and we're very proud of that. There's a lot of individuals who are honoured in this book, and for good reason. Over the course of the history of HSV, and as any business, you have peaks and troughs, you have lots of good years and bad years, and it's those people that help you ensure that your business is here for the long run. Being able to navigate challenges but also take advantage of opportunities is critical to any business. And over the last 30+ years, the world has changed so dramatically. The people have changed dramatically. And while we do have a lot of people that are still working for us today that were around in the early days, there's a lot of people that have retired. There's a lot of people that have moved on to different areas, different parts. Their lives have changed. They've moved on to bigger and better things. Some people have even left the country. So, going into this book, one thing that was really important to all of us was to look back at those people and to pay them the respect that they are due for all the hard work and effort that they put into this business. And that may be people who've only worked for this business for a couple of years, or people who've worked for this business for 30 years. There's a lot of different people that contribute in a lot of different ways, and it's a great way for them to be recognised. Something I'm most proud of when I look back at it retrospectively, and that's managing to internally and with our board get approval for the W1 programme. When we knew that the Holden manufacturing plant was going to close down and HSV as we knew it was going to come to an end, we had a couple of different opportunities ahead of us, and obviously there's an opportunity to do the last of range, and Holden did that, and we were obviously going to do something like that, but we'd already done something pretty special with the Gen F range anyway, and the GDSR range on the top of that towards the back end of HSV's life. And we knew if we wanted to do something big, we had to do something really big and really special. But when you do something big and special, particularly at that period in our existence, when we knew that to do something like that, to do engine programs, you're talking tens of millions of dollars of investment and very, very limited run. And we looked at what we wanted to do, and it was the W1 program that ended up being the W1 program. But when we first looked at it, you're talking tens of millions of dollars for 275 W1s, and the discussion point, and I'm under pressure as well, not just being a shareholder, but also with a board. And the discussion was had. Do we need to go and spend this money and take this risk when we don't know what our future looks like? Should we just bank the money rather than go and invest the capital to go and do W1 and not have to worry about it, not have to go and deal with any of the complexity or anything else like that? And we all sort of eventually convinced ourselves that even if we didn't make as much money as we thought we could on that program, it didn't matter. What mattered was going out with a bang, and we wanted to do the right thing for our customers and make sure that HSV was remembered in the right way, and we felt the way to do that was the W1 program. So lots of different anecdotes I can go back to, but I think the thing that probably makes me feel proudest about what we did was that last program, because we didn't need to do it. It was a lot of risk, a huge amount of work. The manufacturing for that program ended up being a complete nightmare because some of our suppliers were just closing down without letting us know, and it was a very complicated, difficult, challenging program. But we ended up making the best car that was ever built in Australia and will probably be ever built in Australia. And that's got our name attached to it, it's got HSV attached to it, it's got my family initials attached to it. And it was the right thing to do to ensure that HSV went out the right way for our fans, for our customers, for our employees and for my family.
I think it's a great project and it's very timely. The company, HSV, 35 years in existence. I think if we left it much longer, memories start to fade, people are moving out of the business. I think it's really timely and it's been a really great project to work on. I think there's been lots of small bits and pieces put together about HSV over the time, but never, if you have a look at the people that have contributed to this book, it's everyone who had huge influence on the company over the time. So there's never been, I don't think there ever will be, a more complete history of the business. Especially back then, there were really car people that worked in this business. So if you wanted to work in cars, the pinnacle, for me anyway, was HSV. So those people that have been here since day one, they're car people. And if you want to work in the car industry, this is the place to work. So I think that's part of it. And also I think it's still a family-owned business. It's still owned by the same family as it was back then. So as big as it is now, it's still a family business. So if you're into cars and you like that atmosphere, then this is the place to work. Look, I think if it's not just for customers, if you owned an HSV in the past, then definitely you'll want this book because it'll bring back memories about whether you still own the car or not. But there's so many people out there that were fans that never actually owned an HSV, maybe couldn't afford it. There's people out there that bought Wheels, Motor, Top Gear, those magazines and really wanted to be part of HSV family. So I think if you've got that motoring background in your bones, then this is the book for you. Look, it was about the people, and even just talking to some of the journalists, Dave Morley, Bruce Newton, those guys. Back in the day, they were, you needed them to write good articles about the business. So just reminiscing about some of those old days with those was really good. And going through some of those products, you almost forget about some of those products. So just lots of memories, and I could just read the book over and over. There's probably a few stories in there that might have got lost in time or might never have seen the light of day. I know I had a good chat to Dave Morley about some different bits and pieces that might have made the book. But yeah, I'm sure there's lots of nuggets in there that never saw the light of day. And you talk to these guys like Marty Watt, John Volerich and Dave Elliott, who've been around since day one. They've all got stories, and the more you ask, the more they'll tell you. Yeah, it's really hard just to mention a couple of names, but of course Tom Walkinshaw, he's such a legendary character in the business, and when I started, you certainly knew when Tom, didn't say a lot, but you certainly knew when he was in the room and in the business. And Ryan now, of course, he's been a big part of it for the last 15 years or so. He's great. John Crennan, of course, he just had so much passion for the business. A great MD at the time, and I remember when I started, he was larger than life back then. Also, if you look at some of the characters, Brad Dunstan, I think, was one that he's passed now, but he just had that real adventurous character, and he brought a lot of wacky creations to the table. But he's the man behind the original Yellow Terror GTSR, the 427 Coupe. That's all Brad's ideas. So he certainly had a massive influence on the company. And when I started, John Clark, he was the engineering manager at the time. Again, so much passion for cars and racing and the automotive industry. Huge impact on the business, particularly in the early years. So. And then you look at some of those MDs, Phil Harding, again, an engineer, technical guy. Crenno was that marketing guy that built the brand, and Phil really reinforced the technical background. I think that instilled a lot of my career as well. So, too many to mention, but some really wonderful characters have left their mark on this business. And also good to talk with Julian, and Julian was our first ever full-time designer that we had. We always used to borrow them from TWR in the UK, but Julian, when he started here full-time, all of a sudden our design, you can see how our design language grew and our cars got more aggressive and more integrated. And that was because of having not only Julian as a great designer, but having him embedded in the business day to day. His contribution to the business and the book is huge, and his sketches are, you can find them anywhere on the internet throughout the book. Is huge contributor to the business.